The cost-benefit analysis provides a consistent, comprehensive structure for identifying, scoping, and selecting the most effective and cost-efficient mitigation solution to reduce risk to an acceptable level. Asset owner owns the cost-benefit analysis for the assets. Security professional is to recommend and evaluate control solutions and defines the functional requirements for the controls for each risk. And using a quantitative approach, since qualitative approach doesn't assign hard financial value to assets, expected losses, and cost of controls. Instead, you just calculate relative value. Because there's no basis for cost-benefit analysis for qualitative approach, it is very difficult to justify investing in control implementation. So here we'll use an ALE, annual loss exposure-based quantitative approach. Risk level before control, risk level after control, and cost of control. Quantitative asset valuation. First, how to determine the overall value in direct financial terms. For example, an e-commerce website, 724, generating an average of $2,000 per hour in revenue. Simply assume the website generates a constant rate per hour. Then the annual value of a website in terms of sales revenue equal 2,000 times 24 times 365, which is about 17 million. Compute the immediate financial impact of losing the asset. For example, if the website becomes unavailable for 6 hours, the calculated exposure equals 6 divided by 24 times 365. So it's about 0.7%. Direct revenue can be computed accordingly. The website may have some permanent loss of users. Calculating the revenue loss is actually quite complex if you want to be precise and consider all potential types of loss. Determine the indirect business impact of losing the asset. The company estimates that it would spend $10,000 on advertising to counteract the negative publicity from such an incident. Additionally, the company also estimates a loss of 1% of annual sales, or about $175,000. So the total indirect loss can be the sum of both components. Determine the single loss expectancy, SLE. SLE is the total amount of revenue that is lost from a single occurrence of the risk. SLE is similar to the impact of a qualitative risk analysis. SLE equals asset value times the exposure factor, EF, where the EF represents the percentage of loss that the realized threat could have on a certain asset. For example, if a company has an asset value of $150,000 and the fire results in damages worth an estimated 25% of its value, SLE equals 150,000 times 25%, which is about $37,500. Determine the annual rate of occurrence, ARO. ARO is the number of times that you reasonably expect the risk to occur during 1 year. Making this estimate is very difficult because there's very little actual data available. To estimate the ARO, draw on your past experience and consult security risk management experts and consultants. ARO is similar to the probability or likelihood of a qualitative risk analysis, ranging from 1 to 100%. Determine the annual loss expectancy, ALE. ALE is a total amount of money that your organization will lose in 1 year if nothing is done to mitigate the risk. ALE equals SLE times ARO. ALE provides a value that your organization can work with to budget what it will cost to establish controls or safeguards to prevent this type of damage. For example, If a fire at the same company results in $37,500 in damages, and the likelihood of ARO value is of 0.1, indicating once in 10 years, then the AOE value is about $3,750. Determining cost of controls. It requires accurate estimates on how much acquiring, testing, deploying, operating, and maintaining each control would cost, such as buying or developing the control solution, deploying and configuring the control solution, maintaining the control solution, communicating new policies or procedures related to the new controls to users, and training users and IT staff on how to use and support these new controls, monitoring controls, contending with the loss of convenience or productivity that the control might impose. Return on security investment, ROSI. ROSI equal AOE before control minus AOE after control minus annual cost of control. ROSI is cost-benefit analysis to demonstrate the cost of implementing the controls that can be justified by the reduction in the level of the risk. For example, the AOE of the threat of an attacker bringing down a web server is about $12,000, and after the suggested safeguard or control is implemented, the AOE is valued at $3,000, and the annual cost of maintenance and operating of the safeguard is about $650. So the ROSI will be around $8,350. Now, based on the ROSI analysis, how to define an acceptable level of risk? It is management's responsibility to set their company's level of risk to ensure that the company meets these business objectives and goals. As a security professional, it is your responsibility to work with management team and help them understand what it means to define an acceptable level of risk and how underlying security threats can negatively affect business objectives. Each company has its own acceptable risk level, which is derived from its legal, regulatory compliance responsibilities, its threat profile, and its business drivers and impacts. It is important to understand the symbiotic relationship between the business drivers and the security issues that can affect them. A company is not in business to be secure. It is in business to be profitable. A security professional may be an expert in firewalls, vulnerability management, and IDS technologies, but if this knowledge is applied in a vacuum devoid of business goals, a company will end up wasting money and time in its security efforts.